Instagram stories are an essential part of a solid community building strategy on Instagram. In fact, it's where a lot of users seem to be spending their time these days. Most people, when they open up the Instagram app, are not just starting to scroll in their feed, they're going to tap through their stories. Now, while Reels is quickly approaching that similar popularity, stories really perform a different function when it comes to your growth, your engagement, and just building a happy and healthy Instagram community. But what exactly are you supposed to post on your Instagram stories anyway? For content creators and especially small business owners, it can be difficult to determine what to post on your Instagram stories, when to post it, and how often. While the personal accounts that you might be following in your life are posting the occasional happy birthday story or maybe a photo of what they had for supper, that's not going to be effective when it comes to growing your community as a content creator or as a business owner. So in this video, I'm going to give you some ideas of stuff that you can post to your Instagram stories if you are sitting there feeling like, I know I need to post on stories, I just have no idea what. Hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Katie, and here on YouTube, I love to share my best tips for content creators and just generally help you along in your journey to becoming a creator. If you're not new here, hey, what's up? I'm continuing to work on my van lighting situation. Hopefully this isn't too bad. It is very hot in here though. I'm in Miami right now and it is, according to my thermometer over here, 25 degrees inside the van, and I had to shut all the windows so that hopefully the audio is okay. So if I'm sweating by the end of this video, please don't judge me. So before we get into my prompts that you can use for your Instagram stories, I just wanted to talk very briefly about exactly what Instagram stories do for us, like why they're important to an Instagram strategy anyway. The way I see it, every surface on Instagram or every feature or different type of content serves a different purpose in your journey to growing your community and being able to like run a successful career with your Instagram account. So for instance, Reels, right? They help us with reach. They help us find new people. You get in front of the eyeballs of people who maybe don't know who you are yet, and they might just hit the follow button. So that's one way that you can grow your audience. Meanwhile, educational graphic carousels in the feed can be a really great way for you to educate, provide value to your existing audience, and kind of nurture that relationship once they've already found you. Vulnerable, longer form captions along with a feed photo can be another great way to build trust with your audience, establish that relatability and that connection. So as you can see, all these different types of content provide a different piece of the puzzle to your growth strategy. So in this framework, where do stories fit in? Stories are for staying top of mind in your audience because, like I was saying before, this is where people go to first when they open the Instagram app, and of course they expire after 24 hours. So every time you post again, you're kind of shuffling yourself to the front of that feed. So this is where people are seeing you not only every day, but also maybe throughout the day, depending on how often they check their app. And it's also a place for you to provide value, build that relationship, build that trust. Through Instagram stories, this is where you're gonna take the new followers who maybe found you through Reels, maybe found you because somebody shared your content, and they're gonna get to know you better. They're gonna start to trust you, and they're gonna start to feel like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. I should maybe buy their product, hire them for coaching, whatever it is your end goal with your Instagram is. So with that in mind, knowing that stories are about nurturing our relationship with our audience, showing up on a daily basis, sometimes more often than daily, and staying at the front of their mind so that hopefully someday when they think, oh, I really need that wedding photographer, or oh, I'm really looking for some good vegan recipes, they think of you. Probably not both of those things leading to the same person, but you know what I mean. Those are just two different examples. Okay, so with that in mind, let's get into the ideas. One last very, very short caveat. These ideas are gonna be geared towards folks that show their faces on their Instagram stories. So personal brands, content creators, that type of thing. If you are not one of these people, if you run like a business account or maybe like a compilation or community account, then I actually have a video exactly for you that gives you some ideas of what to post if you're not gonna show your face on Instagram. So I'll link that up here, but for my personal brand homies, let's get into the prompts. My first idea is to provide a mini training. So this is something that you can do through multiple different slides or pieces of media up on your Instagram story, maybe some photos, maybe some videos. And this is where you can tackle a pretty simple, probably pretty straightforward question or problem that your audience is having that you have the answer to. I do want to caution you here, you don't want to get too in depth. If you get too complex, your story's going to end up being way too long. I would really recommend doing, maybe 3 to 5 different slides for this whole thing, because otherwise uninterested people might just end up totally skipping or tapping through, and you want to try to keep your audience engaged. So for example, I actually recorded one of these for my story today. So I've been getting a lot of questions lately about how to use Notion to plan out your content calendar, because I've been sharing about how I do that. So I did a few slides where I kind of addressed some of the best tips and tricks that I have for getting started with Notion. So you'll notice I kept this very simple, just a little bit of text here and there. Sometimes it's great to write out a whole bunch of text on one slide on Instagram, but if you do that too often, then it won't be kind of engaging enough. So I think a good mix of photos and videos plus some text is the way to go. So just try to think about what kind of questions that you get asked a lot, or maybe even talking about something that might lead into a potential offer that you have. So if you want to try to get people to buy your recipe ebook, then maybe you preview one of those recipes in a mini how-to video in your stories, for example. There's so many ways to go about this, but I think this is a really great way to provide value, and it's something that I don't see a ton of people doing, even though it's pretty straightforward and easy, because you don't need to run around and grab all this extra B-roll. You can do it from your desk and still make it interesting, which I think is a big challenge that a lot of people have, because they feel like I'm just filming myself in the same exact place every day. Well, this is one way that you can switch it up and provide some extra information without having to go out and do anything other than what you're already doing in your day. Okay, so before we move on to my second story prompt for you, I need to just take a quick minute to thank the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community filled with thousands of classes for creative and curious people just like you and me. Whether you want to learn more about marketing, graphic design, videography, photography, it is all there on Skillshare. Plus, Skillshare is ad-free, which means that you can have a blissfully distractionless learning experience online. I'm personally really excited about Sonia Rosula's course called Start Your Creative Career, Build a Sharp, Smart Online Presence. This is a great, quick course for beginners who want to get their online brand going. And this is just one example of the many valuable and entertaining classes that you can take on Skillshare. The first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare Premium, so don't delay. Try out Skillshare today and learn something new. Hey, you never know, you might just learn something that you might be able to then share in a mini training on your Instagram stories. Okay, we're gonna wipe some sweat off the upper lip and move into prompt number 2. The second Instagram story prompt that I have for you is to tell a story. You could either recap your weekend, maybe a trip that you just went on, a story from your childhood, or you could tell your story live in real time as you're living through it. This is your typical behind the scenes style story content, which I know is quite common, but I do want you to approach it with a slightly different mindset, and I think that you'll be able to connect with your audience more and provide a little bit more value. Try to think about it in terms of a structure of a story with a beginning, middle, and end, maybe even some takeaways, rather than just sharing photo updates. I think that the temptation for a lot of creators is just to snap a photo saying filming my video. If it was me, it'd be filming my video. Okay, editing my video, planning content in Notion. And it's okay, that's cool, but I don't need your play-by-play. It would be more interesting to hear about what are the challenges that you had today while trying to film your video, or what tips do you have for planning this content calendar? You see what I'm saying? So rather than just trying to update people about what you're doing through your day, think about how you can frame it as a story with a takeaway. And I think that this can become especially engaging if you pull out certain moments, certain observations that might add a different spin on it. So maybe that's sharing your emotional response to something, or maybe it's talking about a particular problem that you figured out how to overcome. So maybe I'm making a story today and I'm oh my gosh, the van was so hot, I was sweaty as could be while making my YouTube video, so I solved that by, I would have to figure out how I would solve that, but then maybe I'd share about it in an Instagram story. Here's a quick example of a storytelling style Instagram story that I did recently, where I just kind of recapped our van trip from Ontario, where I'm from, down to Savannah, Georgia. That was our first stop on our trip. And I just kind of like showed the route, gave a couple clips of like what it looked like. And that is really a classic example of like a journey story, because obviously there's a start and an end, but you can use that even not when it comes to physical travel. Like you could use that for any kind of thing in your life. Just make sure that there is a point to it, and then it's not just like, okay, here's a random update. Don't really know why I'm sharing this. I guess it's because I feel like I need to be posting on Instagram stories. Make sure you think about, how is my audience going to receive this? How can I offer this in a way that's going to be interesting or valuable to them? The third Instagram story prompt I have for you is to share some inspiration. Share a transformation that you went through, and most importantly, share your emotional response to that. You can even prompt people to ask you questions about it. I think it's great to throw up a question box sticker on your story and then just tell people that you're open to like any questions and kind of speak vulnerably about your experience. This is a great opportunity to kind of put some more effort into engaging rather than just creating. I think with this type of thing, if you offer some kind of encouragement or inspiration, then I would say like prompt people to send you a DM, like prompt people to start that conversation with you on a one-to-one level, and it will allow you to get closer to your most dedicated fans. Here's some examples of times I've shared this type of content, really just opening up about my experiences with burnout or like struggling with motivation. And this is the kind of stuff that people always respond to the most, because the stuff that we tend to be the most scared of sharing tends to be the stuff that we all relate on the most. And people almost always are happy that you kind of reminded them that they're not alone. Okay, so now that we've got some ideas for Instagram stories, how are you actually going to apply this into your content calendar? Here's the thing, I would not recommend planning this kind of stuff out like way in advance, because it's much better if you can kind of fit it into your daily schedule and that it makes sense for what you're doing that day, so that you don't feel like stressed or rushed through it. I would recommend sitting down at the beginning of each week and coming up with an idea for each of these prompts. So one mini training that you can share, one story that you can tell, and then one piece of inspiration that you can share. That will give you 3 really solid, purposeful ways to approach your Instagram story this week. And then maybe on the 2 other weekdays when you're posting on your story, it can be a little bit more casual and a little bit spur of the moment. This allows you to have that variety, and it also allows you to, maybe switch it up if there's one day where you have some other great idea you want to share on your story, but you do have content to fall back on so that your story doesn't just end up being like posting to post every single day. What I've actually started doing is I've added a little section to the top of my content calendar page in Notion where I basically like give myself a little prompt of what I'm going to talk about on my story that day of the week. It's very quick, very casual. I'm not like creating a whole like post concept for this. I'm just jotting down a couple notes, and I found that this is a really great place to store it, so you can just kind of refer to it each day and say, oh, it's Tuesday, I plan to do a mini training about X today, and then you have something that you could approach your story with, rather than opening up the Instagram app and feeling like, oh boy, what am I supposed to post here? And then it also leaves open the opportunity for spontaneity, which I think is so important and what can really help you like connect with your audience or speak to current events or whatever it might be. So you don't necessarily have to stick to this super strictly, but it gives you something. It gives you a starting point. All right, so those are my ideas for what you can post on your Instagram story. If you're really not sure where to start, I hope that this has been helpful for you. Check out this video next if you're looking for more Instagram tips and content ideas. And as always, thank you so much, first of all, for bearing with my sweaty self today. But also, thank you for watching. And as always, I hope that you're having adventures and following your dreams. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.